Hey guys, welcome back. Hope you're doing well. And if you're new here, I'm Jim. Thanks for stopping by. Today I'm in Luminar Neo and I was working on a photo and I kind of realized something. I realized that I've got a bit of a habit and you might have this same habit too. And I wanted to talk about that because I think it can keep you from really mastering Luminar Neo if you do this thing, which is super easy kind of habit to fall into. I'm super guilty of it and I wanted to share that with you. So I have this photo here. And, I was in raw develop. And so, I just went in and made some adjustments, kind of typical stuff, right? Highlights. In fact, I'll just pull highlights all the way down. I'm going to lift shadows a little bit. Maybe something like that gives me a little bit better visibility into the photo. I do want to warm it up because this was a beautiful little sunrise. I really want to pop those warm tones. So I'm going to come in here, maybe give a little bit of tint as well. Maybe a little saturation, maybe a little bit of vibrance. I think that looks pretty good. And so I was finished with that. I closed develop raw. I went to crop, right? I'm like, well, I need to straighten it. It's a little crooked. So let me do that. There we go. I'm going to hit enter. So I feel like I've got a pretty looking photo. And then, hey, recent update, they included favorites, right? So I've got all my favorites right up here. These are tools that I use all the time and I love them. They're powerful. I like them a lot. I like what they do to the photo. Therefore, I put them in favorites. And of course, therefore, I use them all the time. I was already using them all the time, but because they're in favorites and they're right there at my fingertips, they're super convenient. So I'm going to come in here and do what I would normally do. I want to fix these highlights a little bit. I'm going to pull them this way. See how that's kind of bringing the warmth in. I'm going to play with these midtones and see what I like here. Maybe something like that. And maybe play a little bit with the shadows. I think that's looking pretty good, right? So I had my photo. Super contrast did that for me, which I think looks good. While I'm at it, I'm going to do a little bit of toning. And, in the highlights, I don't know if I really need a lot of warmth, but maybe just a little bit to kind of pop that sunrise. I'm trying to create a really warm, like intense glow kind of coming through the arch as well as kind of behind it. And I'm also going to go into shadows. And here I want to pump that up a bit, but I want to go blue where I get a little bit of that color contrast where it's not just a completely warm, over the top kind of warm look. I want to balance some of the cooler tones along with those warmer tones. So I did that and I was like, hey, that looks pretty good. I'm in favorites. Let me use color harmony. And what could I do here? Well, maybe let me play with the warmth a little bit, I think I'll go a little bit warmer, maybe a little bit more brilliant, maybe a tad of split color warmth. That really pops those nice tones. And I'm down here in the shadows. Maybe I'll go a little bit bluer again in the shadows. Again, kind of accentuating a little bit of what I did with toning, but just doing a little bit more of it. And then I had that and I was like, I was going to say great looking photo. I like the photo a lot. You may not. Totally fine. It might be too colorful for you. Season to taste, all that sort of stuff. But if you look at the before photo, which was that, and the current photo, which is that, I've come a long way. And I was super pleased. And in fact, I thought, I'm done with this photo. And that's what I'm talking about. That's what this video is about. The habit that I'm talking about is depending on your favorites and just using your favorites and not really doing much else. Now, there are a number of tools in Essentials, some stuff in Creative, and there were two tools in Pro that I use a lot. I moved them up here along with Toning, which came from Creative, in order to have them more easily accessible. And because they're right there at the top, I start and develop. I'll often go to super contrast, play with toning and color harmony. I do the same thing on a lot of photos. And what that means is two things. Number one, I'm not spending time on these other tools, which means I may not be learning how to master them or get better at them in order to use them on my photos. And secondly, perhaps worse, a lot of my photos may look the same because I keep using the same tools. So the habit to avoid is depending completely on your favorites. In other words, if you spend all your time in favorites, you're not really going to do a lot of other stuff. Because let's be honest, you're not putting everything in favorites, because if you did, what's the point of having favorites? To me, favorites are just, here's the select few that I kind of depend on. And again, it's okay to depend on them, but don't depend only on them. Use some other stuff. So for this photo, I think what would be helpful is maybe come in and do some Relight AI. So I'm going to pop that a little bit. I'm going to drive the depth a little bit further into the photo. So I just played around a little bit. I went from that to that. So I took advantage of Relight AI. But there's plenty of other tools that I like and that I like to use, but I forget about because I'm depending on what's right there at my fingertips. So I might come down here and go to Mystical, and maybe I want to add a little bit of that, I call it romantic lighting. It's a little bit of mood, not to be confused with a mood tool, which is a great one. I'm not going to use it here, but that allows you to add LUTs, which are great at creating different looks. But I'm going to come in here. I don't think I need to mess with the colorize, maybe lift the shadows just a tiny bit, but Mystical has a nice little impact on the photo, creating that interesting and moody kind of sunrise light. There it is before, and there it is now. But another thing that would be great here is using glow. And I might come in here with the actual glow tool, or drop down and pop that a little bit. And you see what that does? If I drag it to the right, it really blows out that top section of the photo, those highlights. That's kind of what the glow does. It's really popping those. Well, I don't want to go that high, but maybe I want to add a little bit and maybe add a little bit of warmth to it. Maybe pull back the contrast. And there's the before and there's the after. Not a massive amount, but a little bit of interest in that top part of that sliver of sky. Now that I've done all that, I might want to go back to color and maybe pull down the saturation a little bit. I love my colors, but there's a lot of it here, and there's a lot of competing colors, so I want to be a little bit careful. So maybe I'll pull down the overall saturation, and that's the beauty of using tools again and again here in Luminar Neo. And gosh, I almost forgot. I mean, this is a lot of man-made stuff, like these cobblestone streets, all these buildings. Structure AI is great for that because it gives it a little bit of crunch. And so I'm going to come in here and put that at about a 30, and I'll just apply it across the entire photo, because normally I'd remove it from a sky, but a sky like this, there's nothing in the sky. You're really not seeing that Structure AI show up. So before, there it is, and after, there it is. In fact, I might go a little bit more. I might even go to 40. And I think that looks good. And then maybe I'll just wrap it up with a vignette, because there's nothing like a vignette to really kind of seal the deal, right? With a little bit of inner light, which I think adds to that look of the kind of blown out sky, which I got with glow, which was not in my favorites, and the extra warmth that I got in there, and all the different maneuvers I did to kind of move the light and make adjustments. But this vignette adds a little bit to it. So there it is before the vignette, and there it is now, a little bit more moody and kind of a little bit more feeling in the photo. And that's what I'm talking about. So that's what this video is really about. Is nothing wrong with putting things in favorites. I've done it, and I'm going to leave those tools in favorites because I love them. They're amazing, and I use them a lot. But I'm trying to make sure I don't depend on only using those along with develop and then being done with my edit, because there's so many other amazing things in Luminar, and I want to make sure I'm using them to get the look that I want, because all these tools do different things, and you can really customize the final look of your photo by making sure that you're experimenting with all these other tools and getting to know how they work and the impact they have on your photo. Because if you just go develop and maybe accent AI and then go up here and just hit a couple of favorites, you're not really taking advantage of all the power and control that Luminar Neo gives you. And I truly think that you'll end up not knowing the product as well. And if you're watching these videos, my suspicion is you want to learn how to get the most out of it so that you can have the most impactful photos. Speaking of accent AI, I might just come in here and give it a little bit of that because it's so good. Just adds a nice little pop. I love that. Okay, so that's it for this one, my friends. And by the way, that's what we started with. Decent sunrise, had nice warm light coming through. You can especially see it through the arch, but in a single exposure like this, it's hard to expose for both the sky and the foreground and all that stuff. So this is kind of an in-between shot, but I think I was able to take advantage of all the power using more than just develop and my 3 favorite tools and end up with a better, more impactful overall shot. That's how I did it. Something to think about. I found myself falling into this habit, kind of lather, rinse, repeat. I go develop, I go super contrast, and I go toning or color harmony, and I'm just about done. I wanted to make sure that I remind myself and you, if you need the reminder, to go and do other things too. Thanks for watching, my friends. You guys take care of yourselves. I'll be back soon with another video, and until then, you guys take care of yourselves. By the way, thumbs up if you like this stuff. Leave me feedback down below. I'll see you soon, my friends. Take care and adios.